Hispanic Patriot, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines in Denver, Colorado. Here we speak the truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God. And now, without further ado, here's the host of the Hispanic Patriot, Hugo Chavez Ray. Give it up, Hugo. Warm it up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome and Merry Christmas. We're in the full swing of the Christmas season, and I think it's going to be a great holiday season. We all need a break from a lot of different things going on. So just want to wish everyone out there a Merry Christmas, and hopefully you got some good plans for what you've got coming up hopefully with family, friends. And I'm going to be taking a couple of weeks off starting next week, going down to Peru, my home country, to visit my 98-year-old mother, who is not doing great, but the Lord is taking care of her, and she's in good hands. So we want to have a good family Christmas with her, and make her Christmas an enjoyable one as much as possible. So if you're out there, if you're praying kind, we would appreciate prayers for my mom, and hopefully, and when I get back, I'll give you all an update. I'm going to try to capture some video down there while I'm there and send them to Peter and see if we can upload some things on the show. So we've got a lot of things going on, even in this Christmas season. We're getting ready to go into the full campaign for the presidency. It goes into full swing right after New Year's, with the first caucus coming up in Iowa, followed by New Hampshire, and then South Carolina. I believe those are the first three. So it's going to be an interesting campaign season. As you know, President Trump is embroiled in a lot of legal battles, bogus legal battles that the left has decided they're going to hurl at him to try to derail him. Everything they're doing is backfiring. The more they attack him, the more his numbers climb. So it's all backfiring, and I believe that's divine intervention right there, because there isn't a legitimate charge that they've charged him with. Everything is bogus, made up, unconstitutional, and it's put on by a bunch of political hacks who really have one agenda, and that is to try to destroy President Trump and his family and his business, especially in New York. But he has been winning some legal battles with regards to the attempt to keep him off the ballots in several states. I believe that the number of challenges to date is around 27 now, and it's basically the same group that's going state to state, trying to keep President Trump off the ballot. There have been several rulings already, one from Minnesota, one from, I believe, Illinois, or I can't remember the actual states, all of them. One of them is in Colorado, and that one was actually heard today in the state, or was it yesterday, I believe, in the state Supreme Court. And the gist of the whole issue is whether or not a state can ban President Trump from appearing on the ballot. And the Colorado Supreme Court justices on Wednesday sharply questioned both sides about whether they could exclude former President Trump from the 2024 ballot in a case that seeks to upend his bid for a second term by claiming the Constitution's insurrection clause bars him from another run at the White House. At issue is the wording of the Civil War era clause that whether courts have a right to intervene at this stage if Trump has otherwise met the basic requirements to appear on the Colorado 2024 primary ballot, and whether President Trump indeed incited an insurrection when his supporters violently, I'm not saying it, but violently stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. So the attorneys who sued to strike Trump from the ballot were appealing a lower court ruling that basically President Trump did indeed engage in insurrection. But it's a very tricky legal terminology. Number one, I don't believe it was an insurrection. Anybody with a half a brain doesn't believe it was an insurrection. Was it a riot? Maybe. There was some unruly people. But an insurrection without legitimate arms and other things that you would expect to see in a real insurrection, it's a bit of a stretch. But the left has latched onto that term to make it as egregious as it can sound. That the president tried to overthrow the government and hold on to power illegally. It's just laughable what these lefties have done, and to me, it's a total waste of time, total waste of resources and taxpayer money, because obviously our taxes pay for these courts, and so we're talking about a situation where the courts are trying to decide if these claims by these never Trumpers, basically, and left wingers, and this is a last ditch attempt to keep President Trump from being reelected. That's my opinion. For example, Jason Murray, who is one of the attorneys for the petitioners, argued that the clause applies to any office, and that clause is basically Section 3, which says that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment doesn't actually bar insurrectionists from the nation's highest elected position, while the clause refers to the U.S. House and Senate and even presidential and vice presidential electors. It did not specifically mention the presidency, and that's what seems to be coming out of some of these cases. The judges are reluctant to apply that because it's not clear that it does indeed apply to the president. So it's an argument. Okay, so this Jason Murray guy said that he said it would include the president. Our Article 3 would Section 3 would apply to the presidency, but he said it would be ridiculous for the amendment's framers, who were trying to keep former members of the Confederacy from retaking power, to have intended otherwise. Well, it doesn't go to the topic. What that clause was to say that anyone who is engaging in an insurrection, and I don't even know that the Civil War can be an insurrection, other than the fact that there were two sides that decided that they were going to fight over some issues that they didn't agree upon. And that's a whole nother topic, but I don't want to get into that. But the attorney who is representing President Trump is Scott Gessler, who is a former Secretary of State here in Colorado. And he said it should be assumed that the amendment's drafters chose the words with care and meant to exclude the presidency. Several of the justices, and that's even assuming that this is an insurrection we're talking about, which I don't believe anybody believes that. Um, not at least not anybody with some justice on their mind, and especially the legal experts. Several of the justices pushed back, questioning whether such an argument would have allowed Jefferson Davis, who was president of the Confederacy, to become president if the electors voted that way. That would be the rule of democracy at work, Gessler responded. So the 2 hour arguments were the most extensive yet over the push to bar Trump from the ballot. Dozens of lawsuits citing the provision to keep Trump from running again for president have been filed across the country this year. As I mentioned earlier, I believe it's up to 27, but it's basically the same group going from state to state trying to get a state to ban him from being on the ballot. And so far, they failed in 3 cases, and I believe they're getting ready to fail in Colorado. So the more these things fail, the less courts are going to be willing to waste a lot of time. They're probably going to dismiss them out of hand, or at least start dismissing them out of hand based on results of other courts. Now, there's some speculation that this may go as far as the Supreme Court, and if it does, it's my humble opinion that the Supreme Court's going to smack this down for the ridiculous uh, clause or the ridiculous attempts that this is all about. It's a bunch of leftists that just want to keep President Trump from running or being on ballots in different states, and they think that that's going to be sufficient to keep him from winning the electoral college. But they haven't taken into consideration that there are millions of Trump supporters who will just turn around and write his name in on the ballot anyway if they were able to keep him from appearing on any particular state ballot. So either way, it's going to backfire. The more they go after President Trump, the more popular he becomes. His numbers keep climbing. Right now, we had this final Republican candidate debate, which was down to 4 candidates last night. We had Vivek Ramaswamy, we had Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and the ubiquitous Chris Christie, who were on the stage last night. And it got pretty heated. If you haven't had a chance to see it, look it up on YouTube and watch. It's a lot of fun if you're into that type of thing. But the
it's another form of entertainment. Yeah.
yeah. So basically, none of these cases have succeeded, and even liberal judges are, just baffled at what they can and can't do. I'm not saying that deep down inside they don't wish that they could find something that they could cite, but judges are careful about their rulings too because nobody likes to be overturned. And if they come out and make some biased ruling, all it's going to happen is the next level up is going to overturn it. And the final say would be the Supreme Court of the United States, which I believe would throw out every one of these cases. And they will set a precedent here within time. And that's assuming that they even decide to take on the case, because if it gets to them, that means they've been rejected on the lower courts. They could easily just say, we're just sending it back to the lower courts and let those decisions stand. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Supreme Court wants to get involved. And if they do, it is my opinion that they will reject it completely. So this judge in Denver rejected the argument by Trump's attorneys that his rallying his supporters to the Capitol was simply an exercise in free speech. Well, what else was it?
Mm-hmm.
What anybody that has listened to the actual speech, if you can't hear, you can now march down to the Capitol and peacefully protest. Those are pretty much, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but those are pretty much the words he said to the crowd. He didn't say go down there and storm the place, rip it apart, and batter law enforcement or whatever. Again, look up the word insurrection. Insurrection means that you're out with an armed crowd trying to overthrow the government. Okay? These people were not armed with anything but banners.
Right. Well, and Trump did say to go peacefully and patriotically.
Exactly.
That's what he told his supporters from the podium. And also on his at the time Twitter post, he told everybody to calm down and go home, to chill out. I mean, that's there's no proof as to showing him. I mean, that's the problem, is this court or this administration, and I think just society as a whole, it's guilty until proven innocent at this point. What was I can't remember his name, but what was the judge that got basically kicked out or removed from the Supreme Court last week? What was his name? I mean, it was a gentleman who
a judge.
Yeah, was he a judge? He was told to be removed. It was the first time in decades since somebody was removed from that office. I'll come back to that. But the point is,
you're not talking about one of the justices.
Yeah, I believe so. Was it one of the justices? Do you know what I'm talking about? The guy that was removed last week?
I hadn't heard about that.
I'll have to do some research and find it. It was an article I read. But the point is some of the members of the House were talking about it, and he was not convicted of any crimes, yet asked to step down. He's put on trial, and he'll be facing.
You're talking about the representative that got expelled from the House?
Yeah, I'd have to double check. It's been a little bit.
George Santos was a representative out of New York that was expelled from the House of Representatives.
Right. Okay.
On a partisan vote, but a lot of Republicans voted for it, and you're right. The guy hasn't even been convicted of anything, and yet they decided to oust him, which is unprecedented. I mean,
right.
So now it's like you said. Basically, they said you're guilty until proven innocent. What they should have said was, we need to let this play out in the courts, and if he's convicted, then we can decide whether we're going to take action.
Right. Exactly.
But instead, they buckled to public opinion pressure and decided to oust the guy just based on accusations. So that's dangerous, because if they can do it to him, they can do it to others.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Well, and look what's happening. RFK, they're pushing to keep him off the ballot. And the point is that this is clear despotism. This is tyranny. This is fascism. I mean, this is in its purest form a single party who has seized power. I mean, so think about January 6th. On the other side of the foot, let's just say that all of this stuff, that evidence is starting to come up, and about the election being stolen, and about the shady ballots, the mail-in ballots, and all this election fraud, that there is more and more evidence coming up pointing to this fact. So let's just hypothetically say that the Biden administration did seize the presidency and is now doing everything in its power to stifle any real threats to his re-election. I mean, look what's going on. It's
everything they've accused Trump of doing or trying to do, they're doing themselves.
Right.
They claim that Trump is going to be a dictator. Oh, really?
Who's canceling and censoring who? Who is persecuting their political opponents?
Exactly. And that's clear as day. And that's why the American people are not fooled. I was watching a YouTube video night before last that broke down the Electoral College as is predicted. And from all, they broke down every state. Um, and basically, it came out that uh, Trump should win re-election in a landslide, in electoral landslide. He would be well over 300 electoral votes, and Biden would be lucky to have a little over 200. So it's going to be an interesting election for sure. There's still a lot of speculation as to whether you know Biden is going to even make it through the primary. It's going to be there seems to be a movement to try to get Gavin Newsom to replace him as the nominee. But I think that's an uphill battle within that party. And then I read
Unbelievable.
an article about a group in Chicago who is already plotting what they're going to do during the Democratic convention in Chicago. And
Uh-huh.
anybody that knows a little bit of history, I can take you back to 1968, the Democratic convention in Chicago, which turned into a riot, and Democrats were not doing very well. That's of course that's the election that Nixon won, but this is shaping up to be almost a carbon copy. There are a lot of disgruntled groups. There are the groups that are anti-Israel who are not happy with Biden and the Democrat Party. They think that they should condemn Israel and call them out for being the occupiers of their own land. How do you occupy your own land? I mean, that's interesting, but that's what's coming up next summer. There's going to be plenty to watch at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. It's going to be a barn burner, but that party is in disarray. People are leaving by the droves, and people who have not ever voted for a Republican are saying that they're going to vote for Trump because they've had it with Biden and the Marxist Democrats. So
Right.
that party is in disarray, and the more they fall apart, the better the country's going to be. So in Michigan, for example, this one of the cases against Trump, the judge there found that Trump had followed state law in qualifying for the primary ballot, and that it should be up to Congress to decide whether the 14th Amendment disqualifies him. So they're throwing it back to Congress, and Congress isn't going to do anything. Number one, Republicans control the House. Uh, the Senate is controlled by the Democrats, so it's a stalemate. Nobody's going to get anything through the Congress to disqualify Trump. Um, that and then in Michigan, that state Supreme Court in Michigan on Wednesday declined to hear the appeal immediately, saying it should first be considered by the state court of appeals.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to leapfrog the state court of appeals in their appeal, and the Supreme Court said, no, you need to take it to the state court of appeals before we hear it. But it's not going to come to anything. Colorado's high court, the attorneys bickered over the district judge's finding that Trump's actions related to the Capitol attack was intended to halt certification of Democrat Joe Biden's victory. That alone met the definition of an insurrection. That's a big stretch. And there has to be real public use of force to prevent or hinder the execution of the Constitution of the United States, said the Eric Olson, an attorney for the plaintiffs. And here there can be no doubt that trying to dispute or disrupt the peaceful transition of power by stopping the counting of the votes, the electoral votes, is hindering the execution of the Constitution. That's, again, a big stretch. And then Gessler said that the Capitol attack would be better described as a riot, and argued that Trump did not intend to incite his supporters to violence. if you look at the January 6th speech, his speech said, "Go peacefully and patriotically." Those words have to ring strong in this case.
Well, and you
So,
got to think like what would Trump's motives have been to tell his people to storm the Capitol? Like what would that have accomplished? How would that have helped him in any way?
nothing. I
It
mean,
doesn't make sense. Like why would he plan that? He's not an idiot, you know?
well, again, it goes back to I was looking up the definition of an insurrection, and an insurrection has to involve some sort of arms to begin with.
I guess what
So,
they were trying to say was that it was going to slow the counting of the electoral vote or something like that. I saw that on the other side.
well,
Like,
they were protesting. They were protesting the fact that Mike Pence, the vice president, who had the power to send back electoral uh, votes to certain states, failed to do so. And he's been saying from way back when that he didn't have the power to do that. That is a
it
total
is
lie.
his power. He's the one that has the power.
That was in total. He was in total control. If there were doubts about certain states and their electors that they had sent, he had the power to send it back to those state legislatures to resolve. Not that he was going to do anything to discount their electors, but that they had to recertify or to reconsider what was taking place. And he didn't do that. And he's a coward because he tried to make it look like, oh, President Trump was trying to tell me to do something that was not constitutionally correct. Well, he's either an idiot or he's just flat out liar. And you know, you see what has happened to him in his primary campaign. That he is toast from the word go because
People aren't stupid. Majority of people. I mean, we already know who controls the media. You know, at least the vast majority of it, anyways. Mainstream media. So, and we already know who's pulling the strings in Hollywood. And you know, I mean, fortunately, some good actors like Mel Gibson and Jim Caviezel and all these other guys that people are standing up and speaking out, but we know who pulls the strings on so much of mainstream media. So it's no surprise to see the smears and the rhetoric continuing down this road. But in truth, when you look at YouTube and you look at places where the American public actually has a voice, you can see people aren't stupid. People are not like, you can't lie this much and have so much evidence just out in the open. It's like, guess what? The emperor's naked, it's so, I mean, that's the beauty of, as broken down as our free system has gotten to this day, the foundation that was laid out in the Constitution, it's fortunately still holding up because people are speaking up and Trump's winning. It's amazing. That's amazing to hear that.
Oh yeah, I mean, his numbers keep climbing. He's ahead in 5 out of the 6 battleground states, and some of them he's ahead by 10 points or more versus Biden. And that's some of these states that they stole in the last election are already showing signs that they're not going to get fooled again. And so Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, all those states are going to go back to Trump. I mean, that's a pretty much a foregone conclusion from anybody that's analyzing and studying what's taking place. And the fact that the minority voters are strongly headed towards Trump is just nail in the coffin for the Democrats, in my opinion. Now we got a long way to go, of course, and things can, a lot of things can change. But if the election were held today, Trump would win in a runaway.
Mm-hmm.
and he's growing in popularity. But this was another key thing that I saw in the video that I watched. He's not only leading in the electoral college, he's actually leading in the popular vote.
Wow.
And the last Republican who won the popular vote was Reagan. So, uh, you know, all these other Republicans who have been elected president since Reagan were not winners of the popular vote. They won the
Huh.
electoral college, but not the popular vote. So
Wow.
that's huge. But the people are waking up. We're going to have more. I think we're going to have some more videos of what's taking place around the country. But I'm really intrigued by the black voters and Hispanic voters who are appear to have been awoke, or
They got woke.
they've been awakened.
Yeah.
But
We got to
these,
redeem that term.
the woke, yeah, we'll have the real
soon.
woke. So, so basically, President Trump is basically saying, and he's 100% correct, that all these lawsuits are anti-democratic and designed to block voters from having their say. Right. Otherwise, why would they stoop to such a level? If they're so confident that President Trump can't be reelected, why are they trying to keep him off the ballot? You have to ask yourself that question.
Right.
So it's going to be a battle in the courts. And we're not talking just about these ballot issues. And now the courts are apparently, did you see what happened in New York?
What?
The prosecutor, and I say prosecutor in quotations because she's nothing but a political hack, but and the judge, who is as biased as the day is long. So they called one of their alleged star witnesses from Deutsche Bank, hoping that they were going to provide corroboration and support for their theory that Trump defrauded the banks in inflating his assets to garner favoritism for loans that he got. And
so it's a witch hunt. Yeah.
The guy from Deutsche Bank got on the stand and said, "What fraud? We haven't been defrauded. We haven't been damaged. We're very happy with Mr. Trump's loans. In fact, all his loans have been repaid early and with interest, and we're happy to do business with him."
Wow.
And so their case just blew up in their face.
Huh.
The whole thing has been based on that he allegedly inflated the value of his assets in order to garner loans. Now, anybody with half a brain, and we don't know the level that is taken to when it comes to these types of loans. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, as opposed to you and I, who, our biggest probably loan is probably our home.
Right.
But when you go to apply for a loan, what happens? You put down all your information, you give your financial statements, you give your assets, everything. And then what does the bank do? The bank goes out and does their own due diligence.
Right.
They don't just take what you give them at face value.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
That would be a dereliction of their fiduciary duty.
Right.
They have a fiduciary duty to make sure that the loan they're giving on behalf of the bank and all the shareholders is a legitimate loan with a legitimate chance of being repaid.
Mm-hmm.
If they were caught just giving favoritism to somebody, that's fraud right there.
Right.
But that's not the case. Mm-hmm. And every one of the loans, and then the other thing that the guy from Deutsche Bank said, you know that it's common practice for loan applicants to inflate the value of their assets. The judge and the prosecutor were trying to say that this was not common practice. So obviously they know nothing about the business world. The applicant inflates values to favor themselves without committing fraud. They just try to get the best deal possible. That's common sense. And then the bank takes what they put in the application and goes out and does their own due diligence. This idiot judge in this case is trying to say that Mar-a-Lago, okay, has a value of $18 million. Now, stop for a minute if you don't know anything about real estate in West Palm Beach. Okay. There are empty lots, 2-acre lots in Palm Beach that are going for upwards of $200 million.
Right.
Just for the empty lot. Okay. Mar-a-Lago is 10 times the size of that lot with impeccable buildings and architecture and, landscaping. And they have a beachfront and they have a waterfront on the backside and the Intercoastal Waterway.
Yeah, $18 million. Wow.
That's, $18 million.
I buy that.
I thought, Hannity was doing the town hall with him and he asked him about that. He said, so Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, huh? I said, could I buy it from you? Trump just looked at him like, yeah, you can try that. But this judge is holding fast to his assessment that Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million tops.
Wow.
When in fact it's worth probably between 1 and 2 billion.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of stuff that he's having to put up with. We all know the reasoning behind all of it. We know that that is all designed to distract him from his campaign and to drain him of resources while he's trying to run for president. But in fact, it's backfiring so badly that they're actually running his campaign for him. Every time they attack him or come up with more ridiculous allegations, his numbers go up.
Right.
So as of last night's debate, they showed the numbers. Trump is at 61%. DeSantis is the next one in line at 11%. I believe Nikki Haley has just surpassed him, so she may be at around 12%.
Oh, she passed him, huh? Last I read, she was.
It looks like she gained on him, and I think she's gotten a couple of endorsements, and some Wall Street people are backing her. So I think she's leapfrogged DeSantis at this point. If I was advising DeSantis, I would tell him to drop out tomorrow and endorse President Trump,
right,
and get back in line. And if you haven't done enough damage to yourself, maybe you can be a viable candidate in 28. But the best thing he could do right now is to drop out. And we'll see. We're going to have the first caucus, of course, in January. I think it's the first or second week of January in Iowa. And that's going to be a big telling thing because the governor of Iowa had endorsed DeSantis. But the ground roots, the people that are actually going to be doing the voting, Trump's numbers are through the roof.
Right.
He's very popular in Iowa.
Well, if it's a fair race in a fair election, I don't think there's any way that he couldn't win. But my concern is exactly what happened last election. I thought that one was in the bag. I was blown. I mean, obviously, once it all went down, it was pretty clear to see what happened, at least so long as you're, thinking
you
straight.
can chalk that up under the old adage: "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me
Right.
twice, shame
So
on me."
what are we doing to make sure we
Oh,
don't get
the
fooled
ground
again?
game
Because
is huge.
I mean,
They are working on doing the ballot harvesting everywhere the Democrats do it. They're out there even as we speak. They're talking to voters, and and they're trying to clean up the voter rolls as much as possible. But they're not going to be able to pull what they pulled in 2020.
mm-hmm.
There's no way, that, in my opinion, from what I've read, from what I'm seeing, the the apparatus, Trump is taking it himself. He's not relying on the RNC or anybody else. His organization is the one that's got the ground game, and they're going to make sure that what happened in 2020 does not happen again. And there's already been several rulings by courts in Arizona and Pennsylvania and Georgia, um, even Nevada. Nevada has totally turned against the Democrats, and Nevada is a heavy Hispanic state,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and so the numbers in Nevada, they showed Trump at, it was like +10 already. So
Wow.
it's definitely a lot of work ahead, but I believe that that there's going to be divine intervention. God is not going to allow these Marxists to march to power again,
Right.
and so I'm pulling for people to pray, but also do the work.
Right.
We have to get out and do uh, our our work, and not leave it for others to to sort out. So
Right.
I'm very optimistic with what's going on, and some of these court cases are going to start getting thrown out, and and then we're going to go from there. So I wanted to shift over a little bit and talk about this migrant situation. They call it migrant. I call it illegal aliens. These are not migrants. A migrant is someone who legally can come and work and then go back home. But of course, we know the media will, try to sanitize any type of language that describes these people. And I'm not disparaging their desire to come here. Okay, I want to make that very clear. I'm an immigrant. My family were immigrants, but we came here legally, and we came here the right way. We came for the same, or probably very similar reasons that they're wanting to come here. So I don't begrudge anyone wanting to come here. Just do it through the correct process, and you will be welcomed with open arms. I'll be the first one to go out and shake your hand. But for people to just, cross the border and defy the law, and of course, we all know who's allowing them to do that, and that's the Biden administration. And now we've got
Uh-oh.
Secretary Mayorkas now is he wants to give them citizenship. He thinks all of these illegals deserve to become citizens because of everything they've been through. Are you kidding me? This is just, you know, there's no doubt in anybody's mind why the Democrats are doing this. They think that they're going to garner a lot of these people who come here as new voters. And so now they want to give them citizenship. But I want to go to this situation in New York City. There's a situation in New York where a senior residence hall, it's a home for elderly residents and veterans, are being displaced in order to allow room for these illegal immigrants. Now, if that's not despicable, I don't know what is. So we want to, this government, this rogue government wants to displace American citizens to house illegal immigrants.
Mm.
A 94-year-old Army veteran living in New York was forced to move out of his home at a senior residence center so that migrants could move in.
Yeah. People paying taxes longer than most Americans have been alive.
Yes. But I mean, not only that, but these people, this veteran is from World War II.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And, you know, it's just, I mean, it just boils my blood to think that we've got people in this country that would stoop to that level and, you know, displace Americans from their residence in order to make room for people who are here illegally. I mean, they should be. If you want to see riots and protests, that should be something to riot and protest about, because that's just sick.
Right.
There's no other way to describe it.
And did they mention anything? That was the article I was having a hard time getting through all this stuff with. What did they say anything about where the people that are being displaced, like, are they providing any kind of alternatives or anything of that nature? They're just kicking them out on the street.
They're just tossing them out on the street, and they're on their own.
So my question is this: I'm sure you know a lot more about this, like immigration reform. We've talked about that in the past. What are the answers? Like, because, you know, I understand people coming legally, but there's like, what about the people, the families in Tijuana, Mexico, that are literally sleeping in the dirt? You know, that I mean, I used to go down on church trips and build little pop houses for a lot of people in these situations. You know, if they try and go legally, right? Like, you know, 3, 4, 5 years, however long it takes to get through the system. I mean, how can we fix that broken system? I mean, that's the reason why a lot of Mexican immigrants come from across the, I mean, they're in such squalor that, you know, it's not very realistic for them to come over legally, as far as I can tell. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how can we, especially our next door neighbors, you know?
Let's talk about an event that I just heard about last week, and that is that there are in Chicago, I don't know the numbers, but it's in the thousands. Venezuelan illegal immigrants have decided they've had enough, and they're going back home.
Really?
Yeah. They said it's not what they thought America would be, that they thought they were going to be welcomed with open arms and given everything. And that hasn't happened. And they've been living on the street. So they said it's not. And of course, now that winter's setting in, Chicago is no place to be if you're outdoors.
Oh, yeah. God, you'll die.
You know, yeah, this was a story last week that I thought was pretty right on the money. And now I'm reading right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, there's another senior living community that people may have no place to call home. Let's see. It says that the Grande at Granite Falls was touted as affordable housing for ages 62 and up. Renters had to make less than $37,000 a year to qualify. But seniors who spoke to the newscasters said this week that they got sticker shock from seeing their new rental rates. The seniors afraid they're going to be out on the street. Most seniors are on a fixed income, making less than $40,000 a year, and the rent was running around $740 a month. And that she said that this one resident said that it had gone up slightly over the years until she got a notice last month. Her rent was being increased to $1,900 a month from $740.
Well, and that's the boat that most Americans are in. That's the thing. It's like, you know, for the illegal immigrants, like I have empathy. I'm I feel very bad for people that are living in these terrible countries and, what we're trying to fight to keep this country from becoming. But most Americans are just trying to take care of themselves and make sure they don't end up out on the streets,
Mm-hmm.
because of all this crazy inflation and because of, us just frivolously throwing money at who knows what. But, it's not a fun time to be an American, essentially. I mean, it's just things have gone up like crazy. Payments are doubling, mortgage, whatever, student loans. Gosh, student loan on variable rates. Get out of
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah, but we have a government that's willing to send billions
Right.
to Ukraine, and this despot president, you can call him a president if you want. I don't buy this Zelensky guy. I'm not very fond of that guy, but they've got the audacity to send our tax money to help these other countries when we've got situations like this in North Carolina. What would those billions do to help these seniors in North Carolina, in New York, and other places, and
Right.
homeless veterans?
When it comes back to buy the fruit, you will know them. That's a verse I hang on to. It's like people can say all they want. The media can spin this stuff however they want, but look at the fruit. Look at your bank account. Look at the gas. Gas has come down a little bit, so that's fine. But
No,
look at
that's a smoke and mirrors thing. Don't
right,
fall for
right.
that.
Well, the point is it's look at what has happened in just the short span of 3 years. 3 years is all it has taken. Another 4 years of this, forget about it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the whole point. It's bring you to your knees, collapse the dollar, great reset. You'll have to buy into the government issued cryptocurrency, which will, a centralized cryptocurrency.
Let's not forget that this is all by design.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's not an accident.
It's not an accident. Everything that's happening is by design, and the global cabal is behind it.
Right.
And Trump is their puppet. Not Trump. Biden is their puppet. Right. So, this is the kind of things that people are going to be paying attention to come this election. I have heard people speak on YouTube that said that they have never voted before, but they're going to be voting this coming election.
Yeah.
And there are people who said they have voted Democrat all their life, who said, we're done. We're never voting for Democrats again.
Right. Right.
And that's huge, because these are real people. These are not, plants or anything like that. These are people that have had enough. They see the handwriting on the wall. And a lot of these people are not highly educated. They're just regular folks.
Right.
And they're seeing what this administration has done to this country. I was listening to a young black man last night who said, I don't know much about politics, but I do know about my pocketbook and my bank account.
Right.
And I've seen it shrink over the last 3 years. And there's only one place to point the finger at.
People know when they're getting punched in the back of the head,
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't take much.
They're not stupid, and I mean, they may not be highly educated, but they're not stupid.
Right.
And when they see what they have to pay for gas and food and rent and other necessities, they're not going to put up with it. Right. And that's what's going to reverse this trend. So,
well, that's the thing about Trump, is he has more money than any president in history that I know of. And he made it on his own. He came from some money, but he turned that wealth into empire. And I know a lot of poor people or lower middle class, whatever, people like to bag on rich people. Well, yeah, there's a lot of rich assholes out there for sure, but there's a lot of poor assholes too. And with money, the thing is Trump knows money. He understands money. So instead of dogging rich people, everybody wants more money and everybody wants to be rich. That's more sour grapes, Flip the script. Start listening to the rich guy. Let the rich guy who knows how to handle money take over our economy because he knows what the heck he's doing more than probably most people in history. I mean, the guy just gets how money works. And that's why our economy was so fire when he was in office, because he gets it.
He ran the country like a business. And
right.
that was the whole plan. And the fact that he's an outsider and not a beholding politician is what really ticks off the left and even some on the right who want to go along to get along.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wish I could give Trump all my money and be like, hey, times this by 100. He could take it all away from him, throw him out in the middle of the ocean on a raft and no clothes. He'll come back, he'll wash up somewhere and become a billionaire all over again. I mean, just the next best thing we can do other than having him invest our own dollars for us is to elect him as president and have him fix this whole economic mess. He's got the stones to do it too. So you may not like him, but you got to respect him. That guy, he's a fighter.
Well, and then you have people like Liz Cheney now coming out and hinting that she may run as an independent. Talk about a glutton for punishment. Well, she's bashing Trump all the way, saying that it'd be dangerous to have Trump reelected.
So then, let her get the Democrat votes. Like, that's cool, Oh, I mean, spread out the Democrat pool and let them throw their votes. A lot are going to throw them to RFK, and I'd be much happier with RFK in office than any other Democrat candidate. I know he's not Democrat anymore, but he's a true patriot, regardless of the political views. I might disagree with him on certain areas, but the point is that pool is now spread very thin. Whereas, there are rhinos and never Trumpers on the Republican side, but it's that's not a distraction that would take away from Trump. I don't believe. That's my opinion on it. I think it would just detract from Biden's reelection more than anything.
Yep. So anyway, that's kind of some interesting things going on into this Christmas season. I think you'll be seeing some things that are taking place here behind the scenes because of the Christmas season. But I can assure you that as soon as the new year turns, that this campaign is going to be in full swing, and people need to be paying attention as to what's taking place, because it's going to be a barn burner. Mm-hmm. And when Trump is reelected, the left is going to be apoplectic. They're not going to be able to deal with themselves. It's just it's going to be. You thought 2016 was a cry fest. Wait till Trump wins November next year.
Guy. I hope and pray that. Anyways, pray for our nation, man. Democrat, Republican, again, we're all Americans. We're all people. We're all image bearers of God. Keep people first. People over politics. Love people well. Remember that we're all God loves the whole world. He loves everybody, no matter how broken and lost. And so just love each other through this, and wise as serpents, gentle as doves. That's how we can be. Don't react to bait like on January 6th. Keep your head on and let love lead you. That way we keep our heads on straight and keep calm, and maybe we'll actually turn this thing around. I believe it.
All right. Well, let's close it out. And I just urge everyone to, basically enjoy the Christmas season, uh, enjoy time with family. Let's remember the real reason for the season, and make sure that we re-energize ourselves and come out on the other side of the holidays in a fighting mode. And I mean that in a pejorative matter, not when I say fighting, I'm not talking about literally, but we're talking about politically, and making sure uh, that we get behind the next president of the United States, who, in my opinion, will be Donald J. Trump. So let's uh, let's say a prayer for President Trump and his family for what they're having to endure, and I pray for him every day, and I urge you to do the same. Prayer works, and I believe that this country is on the verge of a true revolution, in the sense that we're going to have some common sense come back to power. So uh, I will try to get something to you from Peru, and maybe even do a little bit of a quick video from down there, show you what's going on down there. But it's going to be an interesting trip for me. Uh, Visit with my mom and other family, and hopefully, she'll have an enjoyable time for this season. So, thank you everyone for watching tonight. I want you to, just be mindful of the wonderful country that we live in. I want to send Christmas blessings to you and your family, and let's enjoy the season, and then come back ready to, after we're re-energized, come back and ready to take on this campaign that's going to roll into full gear after New Year's. So thank you very much, Peter. Thank you. We'll be in touch, and we'll see what comes out over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, guys. Hugo will be off, but we're going to get another guest on and keep the conversation going. So,
all right.
God bless
America.
God bless America.
God bless everyone.
All right.